Please, floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Tahir. Thank you so much. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk that long. I'm going to spend about 5 minutes introducing the Not in Our Town ideas, which I've been asked to do by this amazing group, Bridges, and by the U.S. Attorney's Office. We're honored to be here in this group tonight. So honored. When I see the people in this room, I feel like we're the people who can change our country. And I'm so excited for all of us to have a conversation. It's not just going to be the panel with Pardeep and Arno and Navjeet from SALDEF. It's going to be all of us. And so we'll have time for that. I want to also acknowledge Cara Henderson, who did so much to help, in addition to the people that have already been introduced, and my friend Noel March, who's here from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. So thank you, who introduced me to the Bridges program. I'm wearing red today. I don't usually wear red for presentations, but I want to sound the alarm. I think we all know why we are here tonight and what motivated us to be here tonight. I remember a long time ago when I woke up in the middle of the night and I smelled smoke and I just wanted to go back to sleep, and I was like, what is that? And I almost went back to sleep, and then I thought, what is that? And there was smoke in my basement. There was something in my downstairs, and it had caught on fire. And literally, if I had gone back to sleep, my house would have been on fire, and I probably wouldn't have made it out of the house. That's how I feel now. I don't know about you, but if we don't do something about the level of intolerance that is ramping up in our country, we're going to be in for some incredible pain and heartache. In this film, you can see what's at stake, but also what's possible. What's possible if we work together, if an amazing group like this group here works together. There's so much we can do. I want to introduce you a little bit to the ideas behind Not in Our Town and sort of let you know why we're here and why we ended up together. This is a picture from Billings, Montana, the community that inspired the movement, and I'm going to tell you that story. Okay, Kara, you might need to help me with this. I am not a Windows person. So as people have mentioned, we work in communities, we work with schools. We have a program called Not in Our School, which provides resources, free resources and tools for schools who are working to foster inclusion. We also have a collaboration with the Department of Justice, Community-Oriented Policing Service, an agency of the federal government that has been called on in these challenging moments since Ferguson to really address some of the incredible mistrust that has been building between communities and the law enforcement agencies that serve them. Okay, I want to advance. Okay, here we go. Just for a moment, we talk about it a little bit in the film, but I wanted to just dig into hate crimes. Even though this program isn't specifically about hate crimes, I think to acknowledge them, particularly in reading the story about Bedford and what happened, acknowledge what they are, and having a public understanding about hate crimes is really important. But also having an understanding of how incredibly underreported they are and the devastation that causes when we have a disconnect between people who are experiencing hate and intolerance and a lack of reporting and an understanding on a public level about what that means. So, we call this the hate crimes reporting gap. And that is, so you look at the last year, we have these statistics, 2012. So there are official reports that go from local law enforcement agencies to the FBI that give us the official report on how many hate crimes happen each year. That's the number that was officially reported, 5,796. So Bureau of Justice Statistics does their own research, separate Department of DOJ, through the National Crime Survey. They estimate that there were 293,800. There's a huge gap and a level of pain and dysfunction that we have to pay attention to. Who's being harmed that we don't know about? What are the causes? How do we get underneath that? What is the internal pain that's keeping people from reporting that? What are the barriers? what's happening in police departments, that they either don't know how to report hate crimes, they don't have the relationships to get them, what are the language barriers. There are so many things that I think are important to uncover. You don't have to have a dramatic hate crime like the one we'll see in the film to really pay attention to this. And I'll give you an example in a story that really launched the Not in Our Town movement and I guess brought me to be with you tonight. So it happened in Billings, Montana. It was almost 20 years ago now. At the moment, there was a rising tide of a white supremacist movement, and a group of white supremacists went into Billings, Montana, the largest city in Montana, and started organizing. So there were a whole series of attacks in the town. There, people had crosses burned on their lawns. There were attacks on gay residents, Native Americans. There was a police chief there at the time who had been in Portland, Oregon when an African student was beaten to death by skinheads. He knew what was at stake. He said to the community, this is not a law enforcement problem. This is a community problem. We have to address this together. So the community started organizing. So when skinheads started showing up at an African American church, intimidating the congregation, members of other faith-based groups went to that church and the skinheads went away. When a Native American woman had her house plastered with racist graffiti, 30 members of the painters union showed up to paint over the house and 100 neighbors were there to watch. So the town was learning, this is what we can do together. The culminating event took place when a 6-year-old Jewish boy had placed a menorah in his window for Hanukkah. And a brick was thrown through his window and it landed on his bed. And the town knew that the violence was escalating. It was becoming more and more dangerous. So people started putting these paper menorahs in their windows. And then the local newspaper printed a full-page menorah and urged all the citizens to put menorahs in their window. And that year, 10,000 people put menorahs in their windows. And there were very few Jewish families in that town. So we told that story in a film, in a PBS film in 1995. We thought we'd do 10 town hall meetings to see if people could talk about issues in their own community, not just about hate crimes, but what was dividing them. There were over 100 events, and people started using the name. This is not something we put forward. People started using the name Not in Our Town. And we have continued to follow that and document that and try to aggregate this incredible knowledge from communities who are working at this and trying to build an inclusive, safe town for everyone where we can speak about these things openly and talk to each other and get to know each other. So it is for that reason that I am here. Here's some of the examples of things that are happening now. That's how we ended up in Oak Creek, Wisconsin to create this film. On August 6th, 2012, the day after the killing at the Sikh temple, it was a devastating day. I don't know if you remember hearing about this happening. For us, it was, we knew we had to mobilize. We didn't know what was happening there. We couldn't possibly cover every hate crime in this country, but we knew that this was the deadliest crime, and it was until Charleston. It was the deadliest hate crime that had happened in our country in over 50 years. And we knew we had to do something. Then we got a call from the city of Oak Creek, and they said, okay, what should we do? Here's our plan. And we heard about their plan, who they had mobilized, what they were doing, and we said, we have to immediately get there and send a crew and start filming. Because we knew that they were ready and that they had unlocked something and that this community was ready to respond. So that's what you'll see tonight, a story that begins with incredible sadness and tragedy and takes us somewhere else. And we're so looking forward to the conversation that we can have together after you see this film. So just give us a second. We're going to switch over.